there's that. Anyhow, regarding Trump v. Barbara, if Trump answers to the Supreme Court, is he violating his oath of office? Is Trump violating his oath of office? I think so, actually. According to the plain text of the Constitution, he says he shall take care that the laws are faithfully executed. Okay, well, let's look at that. Trump v. Barbara, what was that? That was a case in law. They were saying that Trump was violating the Constitution, right? The Constitution is a law. So this isn't a case in equity. This is a case in law, right? Well, the Constitution, then you're admitting it's a law, which Article 6, Clause 2 already admits that it's a law, right? Who has the take care clause to make sure that the laws are faithfully executed? Oh yeah, the president does, right? What does Article 4, Section 4 say? Shall protect them from invasion. Is it optional at all? No. Did our founders understand that there were a variety of different types of invasions? Yes. Demographic subversion. There wasn't a single founder who said, say for example, that the Alien Enemies Act was unconstitutional. They said the Sedition Act was unconstitutional, but the Alien Enemies Act, everyone agreed it's constitutional. Okay. Now you've got birth tourism. You got people who aren't loyal to the United States coming over here, having their babies in our hospitals, and then going back and raising those babies to be indoctrinated in their countries, which are ideological enemies of the United States. But they're supposedly American citizens just because they were born in one of our hospitals? Yes, this is a Trojan horse, and a Trojan horse is an invasion. Our founders were very aware of all these kinds of concepts. The Trojan horse is a very old story. As a matter of fact, a Trojan horse invasion is worse than a blatant invasion. Okay, so if Trump follows the Supreme Court opinion, which was written down like 200 plus pages or some crap like that, having to explain the justification for their opinion. Look, apparently they're not English majors. Look at the 14th Amendment. First off, the 14th Amendment shouldn't exist. Civil War shouldn't have happened. There's no textual justification for it whatsoever. The power of secession was a known power in 1791. And so 10th Amendment says if the power is not addressed in the Constitution, it remains with the states and with the people. Guess what that means? I know this is a really hard one to figure out, guys, but the power of secession remains with the states, period. Okay? Violation of the Constitution. Protection from invasion, that's not just a power, that's an obligation. Okay? So I'm not getting behind Lincoln on this one. I'm not getting behind Jackson on this one. I am getting behind Trump on this one. And I am saying, yes, he needs to protect from invasion. That squares with the plain text of the Constitution. 14th Amendment, if you believe it's valid, I don't believe it's valid. It was coercively ratified. Forced consent is not consent. We call that rape. R-A-P-E, whatever. But look, I think that a government, I just did a video on President Benson's principles last night, and I know this video is going to be getting posted rather early, but the 5 principles of government, 5 eternal principles of government are: 1, agency. Government cannot interfere with agency. If it begins to interfere with God's plan of agency, it's messing things up. 2, governments were instituted among men by God, and he holds men accountable for actions in relationship to government. So whatever we're promoting, ESA programs, things like that, right? You're held accountable for it. But he also then says governments cannot exist in peace unless they frame and hold and violate laws that protect the life, liberty, and property of the people. And the other one is that, as long as we're protected in these rights, we are obligated to uphold the government. Which again, if I'm the one who's worked to build up my client base, then the government starts to take my client base away from me. That's depriving me of my property without the due process of law. 5th Amendment violation. Barron v. Baltimore was decided wrong. The plain text of the Constitution, plain text of Barron v. Baltimore says it applies to all levels of government, which it should. And then the other principles from President Benson are people are superior to government. People create God created people. People created government. The rights are God-given. They don't come from God, people. They come from God. And government powers should be limited. We can only delegate to government that which we have ourselves. And this is where the problem with redistribution of wealth comes in. So anyhow, but again, the protection of life, liberty, and property Protecting from evasion is the most fundamental version of that, literally the most fundamental version of that. So Article 4, Section 4 is what we're talking about. And President Trump in Article 2, Section 3 has the take care clause. It's not an optional thing, right? And it's not conditional unless the Supreme Court says that you're misunderstanding the Constitution. No. Or the Supreme Court, it's not in Article 3, says you can interpret it for the president. If he's misunderstanding it, you can set him straight. No, in Marbury versus Madison, Marshall even admitted they didn't have the power to issue writs of mandamus to the president. He's like, we do not have the power to do that. So there's an oath of office that we're counting on. Joseph Smith said, any person who's taken an oath of office and fails to protect us in our rights should be considered potentially for the death penalty. Failing to protect us from invasion, guys. Okay? Anyhow, I'm a little bit in a mood. I found out about that. I felt like I was all ingenious kind of working through this morning. Again, by the way, the 14th Amendment, it's written present tense, you guys. Instead of saying shall be, it says are, and it uses the past participle born, plus it has two requirements. You have to remember that subject and citizen were two separate concepts, and subject meant owning allegiance, right? No, a baby born in the United States to foreign parents does not owe allegiance to the United States. That's a lie. We cannot claim to make that baby owe us allegiance, to be subject to us. That baby belongs with its parents. The first law of nature is the family comes first, then the government, okay, period. The baby belongs with its family. The case, look, I didn't have to do 200 pages to explain this. I just told you what it is, okay? Plain facts right there for anybody who's a diligent student of the Constitution. Yeah, you guys, hey,